It is so easy in this job, and many fall into this trap, to go ahead and take the headlines and report on them and take them as fact, right? Of course it is. It's right there before you, celebration time, and I'm not saying it's not. So before you start putting in the comments, just hold on a second. Let me get through the argument first. We've had several announcements, some expected, some not expected, some necessary. AI is haunting as it is. We are so woefully behind our enemy that if they decide to seize on this technology, we're in a world of hurt. So, of course, Trump launches the Stargate project. It's not the announcement that was covert. No, it was something far different than that was covert. And it existed within a response. Cryptic in some ways, covert in some ways, but it could go to indicate something far larger is going on behind the scenes. Images before your very eyes that so many missed, absolutely imploding the left and so much of what they've been discussing, but again, covert means. And little statements here and there, dropped as Trump so eloquently does. Putin's destroying Russia. I think he should make a deal. But when you take all these actions and you analyze them just a bit further, a much different picture takes shape. One that may send both of the aisles off their ever-loving rocking chairs. And we're going to discuss exactly all the maneuvers being made and how they all go to paint a much different picture, a much larger picture, a more expansive picture of what our next 4 years hold for us. I'll have that story for you in just 1 minute. So, of course, the easy news. Acting director of the FBI resigned within 24 hours. He retires while we await Trump's confirmation of course, Kash Patel. If that ever happens or not, we'll just simply never know, right? Abate was been running the FBI for only 1 day after Wray stepped down on Sunday, and he quickly retires. Now, if you remember the history of this man, an FBI agent told the House Judiciary Committee that Deputy Director Paul Abate suggested that at least 25 FBI confidential human sources or informants involved in reporting to the Bureau on January 6, 2021 should not be publicly acknowledged. You see, there's been a lot of covert things going on, hasn't there? And what does Trump have to do for us? What we asked him to do. Expose it all. But to do so, he's got to get through a multitude of layers of, what now even the mainstream media is calling the deep state, before he can get anywhere near it. And that's an arduous task, because yet all of them have not been identified. So he starts with some small swipes. Of course he does. Our first day in the White House is not over yet. My presidential personnel office is actively in the process of identifying and removing over 1,000 presidential appointees from the previous administration. This is much different than what Biden did. Biden did the same thing. Wipe out the old, start with the new, and he effectively destroyed the great republic of the United States of America in doing so, because they have been acting against our better interest. That's why we elected Donald J. Trump in the abundance we did. Now Trump is doing the same. Now he released a few people. Jose Andres, of course. Mark Miley, of course, but Andres, the man here getting the Presidential Medal of Honor, pictured here with Ryan Routh, and of course now he's gone. But all these little images and pictures need to be taken a little bit more seriously, because a lot of people still don't comprehend the full depth of corruption within the United States government. Trump has learned firsthand exactly how deep those seeds go, and they're hidden within his executive orders. of which we'll review quickly. Those that we can review quickly, we'll fire through. Those we need to stop and pause on, we're going to pause on a little bit. Because again, this picture is much more expansive than most realize. These executive orders just go to give you a little sliver of what's to come. So before I fire into them, because I won't stop once I do, again, can you please double check you're subscribed? If you think you are, please triple check. If you're new here, welcome home. You finally find what a real source of news sounds like. We're called Restricted Republic. We broadcast here, Lisa Haven and I, on our YouTube channels, and of course we have a private platform, a membership platform, audience-funded news, no commercials, no breaks, no nothing, just stone cold hard facts. And we did that for all the information that we only provide there. You have a means of supporting me here on this platform, and for each and every one of you, and that membership has grown exponentially. Thank you so very much. It truly is the only way these videos keep coming. I don't use advertisers or sponsors. I want to be beholden to no one, just like Donald Trump should be beholden to no one. So for those of you who joined, thank you. For those of you who want to join here, thank you. If you want more news, I'll give you something in return for your membership over at restrictedrepublic.com. I'm going to give you more news, unfiltered, uncensored, no commercials, no interruptions, restrictedrepublic.com. Get there today, 14 days for free to make sure you like it. But once you're there, I promise you'll go nowhere else. Free news that matters. But now let's get back to this story. So Trump's gone on his starting of his tear, fires the head of the TSA, the Coast Guard, and guts the Aviation Safety Advisory Committee in line with the commitments he's made. New York Post says there's 1,000 more to come. Trump announces purge of over 1,000 Biden appointees. You're fired. You know, talking points, sound bites, they're important, but you got to dig deeper. Will Trump be challenged on many of these? Of course he will. Will we expect anything less? Do you think the lawfare is simply just going to stop? No. Will he win every battle? No. And when he loses one, the mainstream media will seize on it and make it appear like it's the most important story that's ever existed. But he is doing this through abundance, and he's keeping it for everybody to track. Whitehouse.gov, presidential actions, fairly easy. From start to finish. You see there, the last one he put through, which is the last one we'll get to, was keeping Americans safe in aviation. January 21st. There'll be more added today, I promise you that. He started with announcing his cabinet and cabinet level appointments. I told you we're going to go quick. His sub-cabinet appointments, his acting cabinet and cabinet level positions, all there for you to read. I'm not going to go through the details because we got some important stuff to get to. His chairman and acting chairman. Bring the flag up to full staff, which should have been an immediate thought. But of course, the outbound administration's a little sore, a little hurt. Oh, it's going to be a lot more than that soon now, isn't it? The pardons of Biden are not going to be forgotten. All he did is provide a blueprint of what to look for now. Because if you think those are going to stand up, think again. Initial, as Trump promised, he eviscerated all of Biden's executive orders, every one he could. He reversed them here, and there is a long list because he had to restore and has to restore our freedom and this great republic of the United States of America. And how do you do that without freedom of speech, huh? Now, how deep will this executive order go? Oh, there's a lot more digging to do, no matter what Mark Zuckerberg and Google are now claiming they're going to do. They have to show us that they'll continue to do it because our tax dollars funded their success. Our laws funded their success by giving them the ability to isolate themselves from publisher content, not be liable for it. It allowed them to expand. So when you determine which publisher's content is good or bad based on government intervention, you've then used our taxpayer dollars to grow and then go against us. Fairly simple concept, and Trump will have to work hard to reverse that. But now things get a little bit more interesting. Ending the weaponization of federal government. And down in this it says, because he's not done. It's what's hidden within these executive orders. And I only say hidden because you'd be surprised at how many people won't read them. The Attorney General, in consultation with the head of all departments and agencies of the United States, shall take appropriate action to review, The activities of all departments and agencies exercising civil and criminal enforcement authorities on the United States, including but not limited to the Department of Justice, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, over the last 4 years, and identify any instances where departments or agencies' conduct appear to be contrary to the purposes and policies of this order. A full investigation. But it doesn't stop there, because he wants the same over the last 4 years for all intelligence communities to be reviewed and identify each and every instance where its conduct is contrary to the interest of the American people, and send the report to my desk. How many months of digging will this take exactly? Or have they already started getting the information? Because if you're watching the inner workings of government, there's a lot of people who are suddenly turning and heading the other direction. And I'm sure it's going to be with papers in hand to cover their own proverbial behinds. And it's why these become so relevant. Because you're not going to be allowed to hide in your home anymore with the information either. No, you got to come back to work. We'd sure like to see you. We'd sure like to make sure you bring those laptops back, because there's probably some other devices that you need to be given to assure there's actually security and no leaks going on. You see, it's what's not stated within the executive orders that are critical. We're going to go ahead and freeze much spending. You have to put things on pause before you can fix it. You can't just keep letting money flow out at an ever-abundant pace. And we have to freeze who we're going to hire. So all hiring is on hold. No, you're not going to have one of the deep state agents continue to hire more deep state agents under the cover of Trump and think they're going to get away with it. No, we got to vet that out a little bit better. Deliver emergency price relief for American families and defeating the cost of living crisis. Now, this one's going to be difficult. It's great to say in paper, but how do you execute it? How do you truly get money back to the American people? Well, some of his other executive orders goes to speak to this. Just trying to keep this as high level and simple as we can. You see, though, he focused on the climate policies that increase the cost of food and fuel. So many of these go with other ones. And it's in order to, well, drill, baby, drill, and make sure that America is our interest, our first. Because the America First agenda is how you do it. But you have to disconnect from the international community. We covered just the other day the removal of us from the Paris agreements. Finally. Again. Because they serve no national interest. And please advise the United Nations of exactly what we're going to do. Now, until we pull out of the United Nations, or we pull the United Nations out of the United States, I won't be happy. Should they have an office in New York? Absolutely not. They have no place on the sovereign grounds of this great republic of the United States of America, period. And I hope, Trump, you're listening and you put this in action like so much of the other stuff we've asked for. Granting pardons and commutation of sentences for all the J6ers. We can go into detail all day on that. But you know what happens, so we're going to skip by it for right now. Application of Protecting Americans from Foreign and Adversary-Controlled Applications, Act 2, TikTok. You know what that's all about. Under current review. Taking us out of the World Health Organization. So many cheered that, as I do, because again, that is a national, global entity. It does not serve the America First principles. This one's a little bit more interesting. Restoring accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce. What does that mean? You'd be amazed at how many of the managers within Washington that don't feel they can fire an employee. You see, they were worried about tripping over DEI initiatives and, of course, those that had more influence than they did. Well, now if you're going to go back to a merit-based system, you must allow these managers the right to terminate. And then you take your circle of influence. Trump knows that people bad, get rid of bad people. And his cabinet knows people bad, get rid of bad people. But what happens when you empower those that believe in you, those that are doing the daily grunt work to be able to identify bad people and remove bad people? This one has an extreme impact. Of course, you'll have to be careful, hence the hiring freeze, to vet out those who have the ability to terminate and not rebuild their teams to even further deep state levels. It's all within the details, isn't it? Now, this one was intriguing to me because I was shocked at how much of the press wouldn't cover it. Of course they won't. Holding government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive governmental information. Wow, that's a shot across the bow. If there's information that would have been critical to secure our elections further and it was not provided, well, this executive action is going to hold you accountable. You see, it's when you dig deep into these and actually read what he put out, you'll realize how big this dragnet actually is, and it's monstrous. Declaring a national emergency at the southern border, we knew that was coming, and he goes ahead in a further one to make sure the military has the power to act on it. We're going to get there. I'm going in order of when these were issued. Memorandum to resolve the backlog of security clearances for Executive Office of the Presidential Personnel. The backlog of security, because he can't get his cabinet appointments put in, and without them he can't be effective, not fully effective. So let's go ahead and clear out that backlog now, because we need people like Pete Hegseth in place in order to execute on so many of these executive orders. America First trade policy, we'll be speaking about this for years to come, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now. The military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States, hence what I just talked about. All those in the military that have been waiting to help out and secure our borders will now be empowered to do so. Of course, it all comes down to that liquid gold underneath our feet, and he put a multitude of executive orders to assure that we can start drilling on top of securing the border. Things you would have expected and things you may not have expected. Protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, birthright citizenship, the one that's such a hot button. I don't exactly understand why. Yes, it is in the Constitution to assure that when an American citizen has a baby, that baby is an American citizen. Pretty simple. But you see, the left wanted something different. They wanted the ability for anyone to go ahead, put a foot over the border, have a baby, and have that baby declared an American citizen immediately. I don't believe that's what our forefathers had in mind, or the framers of the Constitution. So before anybody gets wrapped up in this argument, always keep it as simple as that. Yes, it is in the Constitution, but not for the reason the left and the mainstream media is telling you. Secure our borders, putting people over fish. Yes, he did it. He took a shot at Newsom. How come they didn't have water? How come those fire hydrants were empty? So I'm going to go ahead and put back in my policy, which says we pick people over fish. I know. It was important to him, though, trust me. Restoring the death penalty and protecting public safety. It's common sense. All this is common sense. None of this is shocking, as the mainstream media calls it. Promoting beautiful federal civic architecture. Now, to me, this was important. But again, the mainstream media didn't cover. Why is this so important? How many statues did we watch being torn down? American history shredded before our very eyes, destroying our national identity. And so what does Trump do? He says it's time to restore it. Build me a framework and put history back in place. What do I think this means? Every statue that was torn down, removed, or destroyed should be rebuilt, because the principles for which those were torn down no longer exist in the United States of America, because he is getting accountability back into the system. Accountability for career senior executives. Whoa. No longer will they be protected under the banner of DEI. No, this is a fully merit-based system, because things need to be fixed. Our energy needs to be fixed, as you see by this presidential action. And why he did this: temporarily withdraw of all areas on the outer continental shelf from offshore wind leasing. They want to fix the environment by destroying the environment, because that's what those wind farms are doing. If you see the pictures, the subsonic noise it's putting out, what it's doing to allegedly whales, because we don't have the real science, because they haven't provided the real science. So for right now, temporarily put everything on hold till we can assess, review, and determine if it's truly giving us what we need. Of course, we know what that answer is. Reevaluating and realigning United States foreign aid. Now, this is a shot across the bow to many people, but most particularly Russia and Ukraine. We're going to go ahead and put that aid on hold, Ukraine. So Russia, you can back down for a minute, because there's a few other parts I have to take care of first. And energy plays a central role in the negotiations between Russia and the United States. We're going to get there. Organization of the National Security Council and subcommittees. Honestly, I didn't even go through that one that deep, because that has to develop much further first. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, and the Global Tax Deal. The Secretary of the Treasury and permanent representative of the United States to the OECD shall notify them that any commitments made by the prior administration are no longer in force or effect. You could take your global tax that's being assessed on us for a multitude of goods, and you can go ahead and shove it up your rear. That's a big one, and one that has a huge impact for our costs of goods. And when will we start to see those reduce? Now, of course, they're saying they're not going to attack in the Red Sea anymore as part of the Israeli peace deal. Should lower our cost of goods. Get control of the Panama Canal. Should lower our cost of goods. You see, it's a much bigger picture, but what the mainstream media will do is limit your scope and purview. Protect the American people against invasion. How is Donald Trump going to do that? More ways than most realize. Unleash Alaska's extraordinary resource potential. Common sense. Protect the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. Common sense. America First policy directive to the Secretary of the State. Now, orders like this have a magnitude and scale far larger than the print underneath them mean. It just simply puts America in a posture to protect America first. Some of these are extremely redundant. Yes, you would expect that. Probably written prior, staged, and ready to go to make sure that the abundance of executive orders is so overwhelming that no one could sit there to try to diffuse just one or two. And if they do, well, they may be made more efficient soon enough, because DOGE is now official. Now, of course, we had a little shakeup in that department, and the two heads of that department. Well, it appears there's a larger shakeup coming. Do I think Elon Musk will be in this administration very long? Personally, I do not. Although he supported it, when you have a firebrand and personality the size of Elon Musk's, it will eventually conflict against Donald J. Trump, and they'll probably peacefully decide to not coexist for a little while. What do we need Elon Musk for? What can he do? I'm not saying he's not a smart guy, but do I think he's going to last? Well, he's the one that tells you he may not here in just a minute. Defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government, male and female, nice and easy. No need to argue that one now, is there? Ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. Of course, we knew it was coming. It's what exists, and now what starts to be a little bit fresher in the mind. Reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit-based system over DEI, designating cartels as terrorist organizations, restoring names that honor American greatness. Wow. Gulf of America, Mount McKinley. He's bringing back our national identity. All the Biden administration did was try to shred it to make us a part of the global identity. World Health Organization, Paris Climate Accord. You see how all these things link together? But you have to read these one by one to really see that. Guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion, a.k.a. making sure the military can... Oh, well, that's going to freak people out. What do you mean the military is going to come into my state? Does that mean they're going to take over U.S. citizens? Well, they damn well better not. But that's not what it's for. because we will need protection. We have seen how radical the left can be when it comes to immigration and protection of those illegal immigrants. Without the support of ICE and more than likely some military intervention, this will be a very difficult road to traverse. And we are truly at a fork in the road. And Trump is steered squarely in one direction: protect the safety of Americans. And when you have a system like the FAA and overall aviation run by DEI initiatives, you could fully expect that Trump will reverse it. And he did. He canned the lead of the FAA. And now he says, during the prior administration, the FAA betrayed its mission by elevating dangerous discrimination over excellence. And isn't that the case from start to finish of the Biden administration? And this list will continue to grow. That was just the most recent executive order. So powerful is it, so powerful, that even Politico, it's time to admit it, Trump is a great president. Their words, not mine. But the second occasion of Trump taking the oath of office also put him in an entirely new light. From the first time, he is holding power under circumstances in which reasonable people could not deny a basic fact. He is the greatest American figure of this era. Period. But that's the smooth sailing portion, because there's a rough sailing portion coming. He has a global conflict already upon him. Some declare it to be World War III, but not by a traditional means of 1 and 2. No, a much different war to battle. But he's already given you indicators. Some people are catching it. What will this peace plan look like? Oh, it will be a multi-tiered peace plan with many, many parts. He will have to bolster strength, however, before he can finish that negotiation, and he's already starting it. I think he should make a deal. U.S. President says about the Kremlin chief, the war is not making him look good. What's Trump doing there? Elevating the power position, not easy for me to say, elevating the power position of the United States and making Russia, through statements, weaker. And Putin won't like that too much. And Trump knows that, because in a lot of ways they negotiate the same way, through strength. And so by elevating the strength of America and threatening, well, I could take those tariffs on or off. You see, Putin, if I take them off, your people who aren't doing really well right now will do much better. But don't worry, I'm going to make sure Ukraine doesn't get to save face in this one either. And so Trump's already staging for what will be one of the biggest peace negotiations. But he's doing it methodically. He's doing it through little covert means. It's the hidden messages of what he says you always have to follow. Zelensky told me he wants to make a deal. I don't know if Putin does. He might not. I think he should make a deal. I think he's destroying Russia by not making a deal. Trump said in the Oval Office on the first day of his second presidency. I think Russia is kind of in big trouble. You take a look at their economy, you take a look at their inflation in Russia. You know, I got along with Putin great. I would hope he wants to make a deal. See how he sends signals continually. Always using, of course, financial means to incentivize Russia. And if Ukraine thinks they're going to get out of this unscathed, no, I'm going to tell you something else. Because I guarantee you, maybe another perfect phone call will happen. Because what would the Democrats do without another impeachment? But it's too late. Things are too abundant now. Trump learned the blueprint, and he's executing a different game strategy this time around. He's laying a basis for not only a grand American New Deal, the golden age of America, but a grand Russia-American deal. And by doing so, that olive branch to China seems to be shrinking now, doesn't it? Because if you notice through all of these executive orders, there's one person that's really devoid in any mention whatsoever. And that country is China. You see, it's the covert messages within what he chooses to say and chooses not to say that are most important. And it's why sometimes these broadcasts take longer than most, because I tend to dig into the details of what's happening, because details are really important. And if he doesn't mention China in most of this, is already pre-positioning a negotiation with Russia, and then bolsters against what China is rapidly advancing, which is AI technology, now you start to see the real picture of Donald J. Trump. Trump announces up to $500 billion in private sector AI infrastructure investment. He made many announcements. I'm going to come back to this, by the way. Actually, let's not. Let's focus on that for a minute. He's going to put out Stargate, and that's how I'm going to end this. He's going to build AI. Now, I want him to build it for purposes of defense against other AI systems. If we start to take American jobs with AI, which many will argue against, but trust me, Lisa and me just watched a movie last night. Will open your eyes even further on what AI can do, or is rumored to do. If he is able to build it for defense, I will support him. Other means I may not. Advancements in medical, I'll support him. Advancements in scaling workforce, I will not. Advancements in making our technology safer, I'll support them. But you got to continue to funnel through the details to see that, which you know I will do here. But you see, Trump's been very subtle in a lot of his messages. Inauguration Day. Why is he wearing a purple tie? That's not traditional. Until you look closer at that tie. Because the mainstream media has painted him as, of course, the next Adolf Hitler. He will only have one view, and if you don't follow that view, you're done. Really? Really? That's why he brought on this guy. And it's why he brought on Tulsi. And it's why now there's rumors that Fetterman may change sides, because ultimately, Trump's purple tie told you the whole story. It was there before your very eyes. You just had to zoom in and realize it was red and blue. The man who was said to be so one-sided has made every effort so far to build a unified team, no matter party affiliation, for those that are willing to make America great again. You see, it's covert subtleties you have to watch for right now. He's not going to tell you his game plan. He learned when he does that last time, it backfires. Homeland's already learned when plans leak out or are spoken too loudly, they backfire. They put people's lives in danger, and things come to an end. But at the end of the day, within his second day, if you want to call it that, he's already brought 100,000 jobs back to America through this AI initiative. So I'll support him. He's already mocked leaders into $100 billion not being enough, so you should make it $200 billion right before the American public. He's doing press conferences. He's asking questions. But there will be positive covert means, and there will be potential negative covert means. You see here, on OpenAI, one of the supporters and funders of this initiative, who many will argue, this is Sam Altman, sorry. Many will argue that Sam does not have the money necessary. His liquid assets simply, aren't enough. So he makes the announcement of the investment of $500 billion. His portion, I think, was $100 billion. I can't remember the exact specifics. It may sit somewhere in here. But nonetheless, it was underneath this announcement that you got to start being concerned. Because remember how close Elon Musk is with Donald J. Trump. And if you read the announcement from OpenAI, underneath, they don't actually have the money. Well, your boss just announced it to the entire country. And within, actually the same day, you undermined it. You see, covert, subtle messages, hidden messages go to tell you the real story. But without us, a restricted republic, You'll miss the little details, and those details make a difference, and we will continue to dig them out for you. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.